I learned the hard way that silence doesn't earn you peace. It just teaches people how to forget you. For years, I let their words cut through me like they were harmless. The jokes about how steady I was, how I never took risks, how lucky I should feel to live such a small, safe life. I laughed with them, the way quiet people do when they've been taught that dignity means endurance. But the night my sister leaned across the table, eyes bright with pride for the man beside her, she said it again, that I was the safest person she knew, and everyone laughed. Something in me broke. Quietly, but completely. They didn't see what I'd buried to keep them safe, what I'd given up to let them live so loud. They never asked what my silence had cost me, or what it had saved. That night, I made myself a promise. I wouldn't defend, explain, or beg to be seen. I would simply let the truth walk into the room on its own. And when it did, none of them would be ready for it. Rain brushed against the windshield in a thin, steady veil as the wipers swept rhythmically across the glass. The road into Savannah stretched ahead, lined with old oak trees draped in Spanish moss, the kind that looked peaceful from a distance, but felt heavy when you were underneath it. I hadn't driven this way in years. The closer I got, the more the memories pressed in. The last time I left this town, I promised myself I wouldn't come back unless I had a reason stronger than pride. Tonight, that reason wore white and smiled for photographs. My sister's engagement. The old house came into view at the end of the block. Porch light glowing like it had been waiting for someone else. White railing, yellow curtains, daisies growing wild along the fence. Everything exactly where I'd left it. Except me. When the door opened, my mother's voice filled the doorway. Soft but distant. You made it home. Blythe. Ava will be thrilled. I stepped inside, carrying the scent of rain and something colder. Distance. Every wall was covered in pictures of her. Ava graduating. Ava winning awards. Ava and the man in uniform, whose smile had its own gravity. The air smelled of cinnamon and celebration, but none of it felt like mine. I set my suitcase down and caught my reflection in the mirror by the stairs. The same eyes, just quieter now. I'd learned how to hold silence like armor, but here, it always felt like proof that I'd failed. Later, upstairs, I sat by the window and watched the lights shimmer across the Savannah River. Somewhere downtown, they were probably rehearsing toasts and speeches. I stayed still, staring at the silver pin resting on the table beside me, its surface catching the last flicker of light. Tomorrow would come, and with it, every truth I'd kept buried. But for tonight, the storm was still inside me, quiet, waiting. The engagement dinner took place at the Magnolia Room, one of Savannah's oldest landmarks, a place people chose when they wanted history to vouch for their happiness. Crystal chandeliers dripped golden light over the tables, every sparkle rehearsed, every laugh just loud enough to sound effortless. I arrived early, but the room already felt lived in, like I was stepping into a play that had been running for years without me. Ava floated in on cue, radiant and sure of her audience. Her white dress shimmered as if the light belonged to her alone. My mother followed closely behind, eyes glowing with pride as she introduced her youngest daughter, the bride-to-be, and her fiancé, Noah Reeves, the hero pilot everyone adored before he even walked through the door. When it came time to mention me, she smiled politely, voice thinning with disinterest. And this is Ava's sister, Blythe. She works with something technical out in Virginia. No one asked what that meant. Ava leaned across the table, her tone sweet enough to cut. My sister's the safest person I know. Even if the world fell apart, she'd still be at her desk, perfectly calm. The laughter rose like a chorus they'd practiced together. I joined in, because silence in this family has always been treated as defiance. That was when Noah looked at me. At first, it was polite curiosity, then something else. His gaze caught on the small silver pin on my collar, the one shaped like wings, under the chandelier. The metal caught light and threw it back in a shimmer too sharp to ignore. His expression shifted, the color draining from his face. It wasn't admiration. It was recognition. He blinked once, as if forcing himself to look away. But it was too late. I saw it. The exact moment memory collided with realization. Later, when the applause and champagne blurred into noise, I stepped out onto the upstairs terrace. The air was cool and smelled faintly of the river. I leaned against the railing, watching the street lamps flicker below, my pulse still steady in the quiet. There are things we bury under sand and time, thinking they'll stay dead, but all it takes is the right pair of eyes, and they rise again, breathing, undeniable. The man my family called a hero had once lived because of my voice. He didn't know that yet, but I did. Back in my hotel room, the city's glow seeped through the blinds in stripes of restless light. I set the pin on the table beside me, and for a moment, the room disappeared. The hum of computers returned, the cold blue of monitors, the endless beeping of data feeds. I was back inside the command center of Skyreach, where night and day blurred into the same shade of gray. The map in front of me pulsed red across the desert, a rescue team gone dark in the Hellman storm. Their signal flickered, then vanished. My hand hovered over the console. Flight Echo 7 if you can hear me. Adjust 16 degrees west. Activate backup radar in 42 seconds. Static. Then a voice breaking through. Hoarse, breathless, human, copy that. Whoever you are, thank you. Then silence. The kind that fills a room even when you're surrounded by people. I never learned his name, but the tone of his voice, the way relief cracked through it, stayed with me. Now, sitting in the dim motel glow, I stared at the same pin that used to rest against my uniform collar. It had outlived its purpose, but tonight, it felt alive again. My phone rang. Ava's name flashed on the screen. Hey, sis, tomorrow, dinner at Tybee Island. Noah really wants to talk to you. Guess he finally knows what you do, huh? Her laugh carried that familiar sweetness that always came with a sting. I smiled to myself. No, Ava. He doesn't know a thing. When the call ended, I sat still for a long time, the sound of the rain outside mixing with the steady hum of the city. I'd built a life on silence, on doing my job without ever being seen. But I knew better than most. Silence has an expiration date, and Noah Reeves was about to find its edge. Tybee Island carried the scent of salt and damp air. By the time I reached Noah's house, the tide had begun to pull away, leaving streaks of moonlight on the water. The house glowed warm against the dark horizon, laughter spilling from inside long before I stepped through the door. Ava met me first, her excitement too polished to be real. She looked flawless, white dress, golden earrings, confidence sharpened into performance. She leaned in and whispered, "You'll see why everyone adores him tonight." She always said things like that, as if admiration were currency and she owned the bank. Inside, the table stretched almost the length of the room, candles flickering along a spotless white cloth. I was seated at the far end, a safe distance from the stage. I'd been in that seat all my life, close enough to be visible, far enough not to matter. Dinner unfolded in waves of praise. Ava recounted every heroic story she knew about Noah. He flew through a sandstorm once, saved his entire crew. My mother clasped her hands together, voice trembling. "Ava, you found a remarkable man." I watched Noah. He smiled, but the warmth never reached his eyes. When he spoke, his words landed like pebbles dropped into deep water. "You used to work at Langley, didn't you?" "Blythe?" All eyes turned to me. I nodded once. "For a while." Ava laughed. "She's being modest. My sister's job is the safest thing imaginable." Noah's gaze didn't move. "Langley's not exactly safe," he said. "Quieter now?" "Nothing about it ever is." Our eyes met, long enough for the noise around us to fade. He knew there was something there, and I knew he was about to reach for it. Later, over dessert, he began telling a story none of them were ready for. There was a mission once. Helmand Province. We lost navigation, thought we were done. Then a voice came over the radio. Calm, certain, told us how to steer clear. That voice saved us. Everyone leaned in. Fascinated, I stayed still, my hand tightening around the glass until it trembled. Noah looked straight at me, searching for confirmation. Without thinking, I said, "If wind speed passes 30 knots, backup radar resets after 42 seconds. The air snapped. Noah's hand froze midair. The flame nearest him flared, then steadied again. Nobody understood what I'd said, but he did. His expression shifted from recognition to disbelief. Ava broke the silence, laughing too loudly. "My sister loves her numbers. Ignore her." Noah's knuckles whitened around his glass. He didn't answer. When the evening ended, I stepped out onto the porch, the waves below catching the last of the candlelight. Footsteps followed. That voice on the radio, it was you, wasn't it? I didn't turn. I did my job. Nothing more. "You saved us," he said, voice rough. "No one needs to know." He hesitated, then lowered his head. "I need to." The sea breeze carried the words away, leaving only the truth between us. Alive, dangerous, and impossible to bury again. The next afternoon, Ava called it a family lunch, her tone too light, her meaning too sharp. She wanted control back. I arrived to find her glowing again under the porch light, talking fast, laughing harder. My mother doted on Noah. He smiled politely, distant. I knew the look, someone holding a secret too big for small talk. Ava's voice sliced through the calm. "I thought it'd be nice for everyone to know the real you. Blythe, the quiet one. No need." I said, "They already decided who that is." Halfway through lunch, Noah finally spoke. "That storm I mentioned last night, if not for the voice guiding us, we'd have gone down. Command said the signal came from an unknown channel. Some called it luck. I didn't look up. There's no luck in missions like that, only mistakes and choices." Ava stiffened. She doesn't like talking about things she doesn't understand. Noah's tone changed. "She understands more than you think." The table went silent. Even the wind outside seemed to hold its breath. My mother smiled awkwardly, pretending not to hear. When the meal ended, Noah approached me by the doorway. I replayed the recordings. "The voice that saved us, it's yours." I met his eyes. "You shouldn't say that here." He nodded, guilt flickering beneath his composure. "Then I'll just say thank you." Before I could reply, Ava appeared behind him, her smile thin, trembling. She'd seen the way he was looking at me. Misunderstanding comes easily to people who only see surfaces. She walked away, heels clicking against the wooden porch. I watched her go. Knowing something irreversible had begun, silence had always protected me. But that day, I could feel it turn against me, sharp, alive, waiting to cut. It was the kind of evening that pretends to be perfect. The air was thick with salt and lemon, candles flickering on polished wood. Every seat around Noah's family table filled. Ava had arranged everything, her grand performance for his relatives. She moved through the room like a spotlight followed her, wrapped in a red dress that demanded attention. My mother glowed beside her. I just wanted to sit at the end of the table, eat quietly, and leave before anyone remembered I was there. Noah was calm but distant, his silence threading through the laughter like an undercurrent. The night carried on with stories of his heroism, told by people who'd never been anywhere near danger. My mother's eyes shimmered with pride. Ava basked in the glow. I stayed silent, letting it all drift past. Then Ava turned to me, voice light with mockery. "I still don't get why you wear that little silver pin. What's so special about it?" I opened my mouth, but she was already reaching across the table. Her fingers brushed my collar, tugging the pin loose. The sound of metal against fabric sliced through the room. Noah's chair screeched against the floor as he shot up, grabbing Ava's wrist midair. "Don't touch that." The laughter died instantly. The waves outside seemed to stop. Ava forced a smile. "I was only teasing." He said nothing, his eyes fixed on the pin glinting in the candlelight like a blade. His father frowned. "What's going on, son?" Noah's voice came out steady, each word deliberate. "The person who wears that saved my life." My mother blinked, confused. I picked up the pin, fastening it back to my collar. Ava stared between us. You mean her? Hellmand! 2017, Noah said quietly. The voice on the radio, it was hers. Everyone turned to me. I kept my tone even. I'm not allowed to discuss my work. My mother's voice trembled. What have you been doing all these years? Things you wouldn't have believed, even if I told you. Ava's disbelief turned sharp. You're lying! You always find a way to take the spotlight. Noah cut her off. Firm, believe it. If not for her, I wouldn't be here. The table fell silent. Shock rippled through the room, melting into something heavier, understanding. Faces that had dismissed me now looked away, unable to hold my gaze. I don't need to be understood, I said softly. I just need peace. The candles flickered once, then stilled. Dinner unraveled quietly. Half-empty glasses, untouched plates, the sound of the sea pressing against the walls. Noah's father spoke again, voice low. So, she outranks you. Son? Noah nodded. She gave the order. I followed. And I made it home because of her. My mother looked at me with shaking hands. Why didn't you ever tell us? Because it wouldn't have mattered. You only believe what can be framed or photographed. Ava's voice cracked, bitter. You just can't let me have a moment, can you? You've always needed to be loud, I told her, but some things echo farther when whispered. Noah straightened, bowed his head, not from duty, but from gratitude. If not for her, 6 men would have never come home. Ava turned pale, then stormed out, her heels striking the floor like gunfire. My mother slumped, hands over her face. I adjusted the pin, its silver surface catching the dying light. Silence used to be my duty. Now it's my strength. The last candle went out, leaving only the reflection of metal and the bowed figure of a man who finally understood what it cost to stay unseen. Silence hung over the room like smoke after a fire. Ava was gone. My mother's hands covered her face, and Noah stood motionless, his gaze locked on mine. The candles flickered, light trembling over the silver pin on my collar. The only thing in the room that still seemed alive. Noah's father broke the stillness first. So, you outrank my son? His tone wasn't mocking, just stunned. Noah answered before I could. She gave the order that brought us home. I followed it. My mother's voice trembled. All these years, what have you been doing? I met her eyes, the same ones that had looked at me with disappointment for so long. I did what you never believed I could. Her lips parted, then closed again. The candles hissed softly. Waves murmured beyond the walls. I drew a deep breath. Silence isn't weakness, it's discipline. Noah bowed his head, not out of habit, but respect. If not for her, none of us would have made it back. Their silence felt different now, heavy, humbled. I pushed back my chair and stood. I don't need to be understood. I just need peace. I stepped outside. The night air hit cold and clean. I'd stayed quiet for duty once. Tonight, I chose it for myself. A week later, Savannah woke under a light rain, soft and steady, the kind that never really stopped. I spent the morning cleaning my old room, folding clothes I no longer wore, placing the past into boxes that no longer hurt to touch. Life had slipped back into its quiet rhythm, orderly, uneventful, peaceful. But this silence felt different now. It was no longer cold. The phone rang. My mother's voice was rough, uncertain. I don't know what to say to you. You don't have to, I told her. I'm fine. There was a pause, long enough to hear her breath catch. Then, softly, I just didn't realize how far you'd gone. I smiled faintly. I didn't go far. Mom, you just never looked. When the call ended, the quiet felt clean again. That afternoon, an envelope arrived, cream-colored, my name written carefully across the front. Inside was Ava and Noah's wedding invitation. Heavy paper, gold lettering, elegant and distant, but tucked between the folds was a smaller note. To the voice who guided us home, a seat at the head table is reserved for you. N.R. I read it twice, maybe 3 times, until the ink blurred. Outside, the Georgia sky shifted from gray to silver, light spilling softly through the window. I folded the note and placed it in the drawer beside the silver pin. No anger, no grief, just the quiet understanding that recognition didn't need an audience. I whispered to the room, "I've already heard the only thank you that matters." Then I wrote a reply I would never send. "Be happy. Ava." Let the silence say the rest. The drawer closed with a gentle click, the paper and the pin resting side by side, catching the last light of the rain. At dawn, I drove to the old pier, the one I'd sworn never to return to. The boards creaked beneath my feet, weathered by years of salt and wind. The water lay still, mirroring the pale sky, quiet and endless. I pulled out my phone. A single encrypted message appeared, unsigned. "Langley requests your expertise again." For a moment, I just stared, then smiled softly. I was never really gone. Sitting on the wooden steps, I unclipped the silver pin from my collar and placed it beside me. The first light of morning hit the metal, scattering across the surface of the water in thin, silvery lines. The breeze was gentle, tasting of salt and rain. No one knew who I was. No one needed to. The world turned on, steady and safe. Some heroes don't fade into silence, they become it. I closed my eyes, breathing in the calm. Freedom, I realized, wasn't about being seen. It was about no longer needing to be